ready to experience the most transformative cosmic event of 2025? Mars Retrograde is not just a celestial phenomenon, it's a profound call to reset, rethink, and redefine your understanding of power and purpose. But this time, it's different. This Mars Retrograde will hit in ways we've never seen before. Join David Lawrence Palmer, the Leo King, a world-renowned celebrity astrologer, for an exclusive live event streaming on High Vibe TV. This isn't just another astrology event. It's an immersive experience that dives deep into the astrological and personal implications of this rare Mars retrograde. You'll gain insights and tools to fully embrace this cosmic shift and transform your life. David will guide you through the unique placements of Leo and Cancer during this Mars retrograde, the rare and impactful Pluto opposition, and much more. As always, expect special surprises and exclusive revelations that only the Leo King delivers. Discover how Mars retrograde impacts every area of your life, your love life, career, manifestation, and direction. Learn how to turn its challenges into opportunities for personal empowerment. Gain a new understanding of power, both personal and global, and how to truly harness it for your own growth. Have questions? You'll get the chance to ask David live during the calendar session, or send your questions in advance to pr@highvibe.tv. Don't miss this opportunity to connect with the cosmos, understand its messages, and align yourself with the energy of the year ahead. From the Mars perspective, this is the beginning of a long period of Aries influence, and understanding it now is critical. Save the date, December 12th, 2024, at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. Streaming live exclusively on High Vibe TV. Reserve your spot today. Click below to join this one-of-a-kind live stream and embark on your cosmic reset. Premium Plus subscribers get this event included with their subscription. For others, the event is $19.99. Whether you join live or watch the recording added to your library, this experience will empower you for what's to come.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? It is David Palmer, Leo King, and welcome to Deep Astrology, your weekly astrology forecast for this week of December the 24th through the 30th, 2024. Hope everyone is doing awesome out there. Thanks so much for being a part of highvibe.tv. Truly appreciate it. I am doing this free for people out on YouTube because it is Christmas week. Just want to give that gift and keep on giving. You can always give back by, of course, being a member of highvibe.tv, where you miss this show and all the daily shows and Full Disclosure and all the other awesome shows that are done on there. Truly appreciate all the love and support for all of the networks I've done, but High Vibe's been the long-lasting one at over 5 years now, going on 6. Hope everybody's been having a good time. It's been crazy astrology out there. This is the show where, of course, I'm going to channel the astrology for this week and then go deep into the charts. We have a lot to talk about this week. But before I go into that, let's talk first about, I just put on sale my Mars Retrograde special, where I do all the history and, of course, the astrology of why this Mars Retrograde is a cosmic reset and the biggest transit. You can get it on highvibe.tv right now. Just click on the top of the website. The link is also below on this video or the video on High Vibe. It's now at $15. This 3-hour and 40-minute video will literally change your whole entire idea of life itself. Also, what Mars Retrograde really does mean in your life, but how rare the Mars retrograde we are in right now is. It's almost 4,000 years ago since we've actually seen this transit happen the way it's happening. So And actually, never seen it before in the way that it's happening, but the way that we can only get close to it is almost 4,000 years ago. So if you want to understand how this is going to be really the marker point to the beginnings of this whole entire complete world shift, and to actually see the spark that's making that happen is this Mars retrograde, and much more how it's affecting you, your chart, and so forth. highvibe.tv, click on that. Well, it's good to be with everyone, especially I know there's been so much. This is quite the week that we have in store for us. It's, of course, Christmas, but it's a new moon that's coming in Capricorn. But before that new moon, we have Jupiter and Saturn in their second square. And, of course, they're going to square 3 times. But this is the last of the squares in Gemini, where Jupiter is retrograding right now, and Saturn, which is in Pisces direct. The big clash is what I'm calling it, of course, to look at just the energy of it. Yeah, it is the big clash. That's the way that I'm looking at it. Oh, that's that. So let's go to right here. The big clash. And the great clash, right? Jupiter and Saturn. And I think people forget, right? That clash is not a fun one, especially for Saturn, right? Because at the end of the day, Jupiter is the one that does have to overtake his father because he eats his own children. But this is where Saturn is making its devouring aspect. Now, of course, Saturn never does eat his own child, Jupiter, but he does eat the rock that his wife gives him. And this is going to be a very interesting moment for us because it's going to be a massive faith test, while at the same time we are in totally new waters, right? Well, not exactly the most new, but we haven't been in Capricorn season without Pluto there since before Pluto came into Capricorn. So you got to go back to 2007 when you came into Capricorn season and there was no planets in Capricorn, right? So this is a very interesting time to be alive. Again, it's almost like going forward and backwards, especially with the Mars retrograde we're in now. But seeing this as Capricorn season without Pluto is looking at the last 16 years since 2008 of all this big work we've done about what is achievement, what is control, what are systems. And so that's an underlying theme that we're going to be going through this whole Capricorn season, but we still haven't fully finished the Pluto Capricorn because on January 21st, the Sun and Pluto will finally make their conjunction in Aquarius. And we did not see that at the beginning of this year. It happened at 29:59 Capricorn. So there's still, like a typical Capricorn, one control, one last plank on the boat that's destroyed that they're hanging on to, or the world is, of all the systems are trying to hang on, and the illusion of them and the falsity of them, many of us can see, but some people are still hoping for what never happens. You know, what's great about Pluto, it's the for sure thing in life that we all have in common, just as much as being alive, being birthed. The other part of it is death. And so the full death of this Capricorn energy is not fully felt till we get to then, but there is this wide open space now for us to ponder, you know, what can we get better of a grip on in our lives? I mean, this is a big week. Mercury, of course, still in Sagittarius in its detriment. We have that mutual reception, of course, with Jupiter, but we're going to see Mercury opposite Jupiter. That's going to be a big one this week. This will be the 3rd time. And this is all while Mars in retrograde in Leo is still in opposition to Pluto. And we're ready to see that second opposition, not this week, but the first week of January and the 2nd. But we are ending this week on December 30th, so you might as well just start to get ready here for 2 of the big oppositions that have been happening for November, December into January. And this is 2 of those oppositions happening for the 2nd time. And then this is the big 2nd square of Jupiter and Saturn, but with Saturn this time direct and with Jupiter retrograde. So this is one where I don't care where you are in life, it seems like there's a challenge that you won't make it through, and that is where you're going to have to find that Teflon within you. You know, you have to be stronger, and this isn't about, you know, pulling up your bootstraps. This is about understanding the adult part of yourself that truly, in my opinion, the mind right now is the worst place to be with Mercury still in Sagittarius, in its detriment, Jupiter retrograde in Gemini, and Mercury square Saturn this week as well, and opposite Jupiter while they're both in square. So your mind is way off when it comes to this idea of, oh, I think I know how to figure it all out. Mentally, this is the right thing. Or maybe you'll be at Christmas and let me ask somebody in their opinion, is it the right opinion? Maybe. Take it with a grain of salt though. Like, we aren't going to know in our minds how to get through this. We're not going to be able to use our minds right now to really have all the answers. This is about a faith test, especially with Jupiter square Saturn and Saturn being in Pisces. And with Neptune still in Pisces, right? This is a big transit that we haven't seen come to that conjunction, which doesn't happen till 2026 as we come into February. So we're about a year away from Saturn and finally Neptune to make their conjunction. But what's weird is they come so close for the next year that it's pretty much like they're conjunct for a year, and they're going to also have a North Node conjunct them. So if we really think about it, this is us. How are we going to figure this stuff out? Well, one, there's so many big faith tests about us not falling into our old subconscious traps, learning deeply from past patterns, past experiences, and not repeating them. I mean, I think a lot of this is about making sure that you're not self-undoing yourself before you even know what the next corner brings. We're going to have to take each moment, literally moment by moment, which feels very Virgo, but even in Capricorn, right? You go with, where's the step taking me right now in my life? What's the next step? And there's a big clash right now. So even with this, it evens itself out. It's like Saturn, of course, wants to control, but in Pisces, like, to me, honestly, I feel like Saturn in Pisces is kind of like waking up, especially that Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, is in there. It's like waking up after this woke shit that people fell for the last couple of years. And you've seen it ever since Saturn went direct, the woke shit just be like taken out, right? And it's like Saturn kind of like, I don't know, started to dye his hair and started to go woke. And when Saturn came direct, kind of woke up like, what? Oh, what did I do? It's like, yeah, bro, like you were starting to get really weird, bro. You were hanging out over there. You were talking about ingesting hormones and shit. Oh, shit. Right? So we have to remember that this Saturn's trying to get a grip, but it also wants to, in many ways, try to convince itself to quit. The only place where Saturn tries to convince itself to quit is Pisces. After it has all of its dominance when it's literally at home in Capricorn and in Aquarius, and then it comes into Pisces and it starts to go, maybe not. After it has all of this power, it kind of gets really lost there, especially with Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, in there. We have to remember that even though Jupiter is in square, and Jupiter is interesting because Jupiter does also rule Pisces, is the original co-ruler, and Jupiter's in Gemini. And so this makes it really weird because we are going to see that Mercury and Jupiter oppose and then both square Saturn. So making this big T-square to Saturn. And so when it comes to our quick ideas, our smart ideas, or even our belief systems, or the places that we're having curiosities and wanting to expand on a broader reach, they're both square to Saturn. So then it's easy for us to let our minds convince us, our belief systems, that it's all going to shit in a handbag, right? Then just think of Saturn, and where's the sun and where's the new moon this week? It's in Capricorn. So the dispositing aspect of this new moon is with Saturn, and it's in big square to Jupiter, and it's going to have this last square to Mercury, which has been in detriment for a long time. And so we have to remember that the North Node is coming to its end as well in Aries. As we come into January here, we'll finally see it in the first couple weeks move into Pisces, which of course is going to shift things extremely, because the last 18 months it's been North Node and Chiron. And so that's the other part of this week, is Chiron is going to station direct on December 29th in Aries. And what's interesting is if you use the North Node in Aries, you use Chiron in Aries, it disposits Mars, and Mars is retrograde in Leo and beginning to oppose Pluto. And the last time that we saw even close to a Mars retrograde in Leo opposite Pluto, it's on my Mars retrograde, but it's been about 4,000 years. There was another one, but it didn't go back into Cancer. But the one that goes back into Cancer, it's been since 1886 BC. You have to remember too, when Pluto was in Capricorn for the last 16 years, never once did Mars retrograde oppose Pluto in Capricorn. So you are not well equipped for this. None of us are. And when you think of Chiron and you think of this North Node here, you know, our destined way is to be extremely humbled, especially in our egos. I mean, talk about massive ego death. Like everything that your ego is trying to have and want, the more you let go of that, instead of letting go of your soul or trying to find an escape route or trying to sometimes boost your ego so much to make you feel like you'll be better, try to pump yourself up, that ain't working, right? So this isn't about pumping yourself up. This isn't about trying to make yourself feel better through some sort of like ego, oh, I'll attain this and it'll make me feel better, or once I have this much money, or once I have this relationship, or once I have this situation, or once I have my rent, or once I have enough money for this and that, or whatever it is, guess what? It ain't good enough. And so it's weird that this whole week, as Chiron's literally stopping and literally going to go to like 19 degrees in like 1 minute. So we're almost going back to 18, but it's really weird. 19 degrees Aries, that's where we did have the total solar eclipse this spring. And that is at the degree where the sun is exalted at 19 degrees of Aries. So this part of ourselves that feels exalted, which is usually a constant, hasn't been. 2024, right? But maybe this has been you have to look at the wider view of all of this. Pluto's out of Capricorn. We're going to have a new moon in Capricorn at 9 degrees of Capricorn. It's in an approaching sextile to Saturn. It's going to approach a quincunx to Jupiter. It's not really like the most craziest new moon I've ever seen, but it is one that kind of makes us look bigger at the bigger picture here. This has been a huge and momentous 2024, one that's been like, your ego don't work no more. That feeling of, I always feel this way, and why am I not feeling this way when it comes to I'm able to just tackle this situation and beat down that problem. You have to find another way to do it within you, and it's not about the external, it's about the internal. It's about this deeper way that you heal within yourself and realize you'll have parts of that stuff back one day, okay? In 2025, you'll start to get parts of that back. But this is about finally allowing yourself to fully take off the mask and look at yourself in your most rawest form and not panic and not fall off a cliff with it, right? Like, and even with the sensitivities with Neptune and Saturn and Pisces, not letting those sensitivities overwhelm you, not letting yourself then, you know, whether it's on the internet or whether it's on TV, let yourself also totally get psyoped into like, this is the way it should look and it's not looking that way. Like that's how, you know, stupid this world is, that the universe is having us get to this more true form and take off all these masks. And actually this Capricorn energy is like, why don't we actually start building the structure from within and how we build it without from this more true, authentic self? That yes, we all are not perfect, and yes, we all have trials and tribulations, and yes, we all have different ways to approach them now that might not feel like the most glorious epic moment that we're so used to. Remember, Pluto now out of Capricorn, the last 16 years has been, the more I can prove myself, the more that I can prove I've achieved, the more that I can prove that I've made the job, right? Like, look at how everybody in the last 16 years was like, well, what do you do for a living? And then it became like, oh, you work a normal job? Oh God, right? You're not an entrepreneur. You're not the head honcho or whatever. That's gone now. Now it's coming down to humanity. So it's kind of like, well, what human are you with Pluto and Aquarius? We're going to see Venus this week also in Aquarius, square Uranus. So this is a week where, you know, I'm going to be real with you, like not your typical Christmas, doesn't even feel typical, but it's going to have because it's going to have the good parts are going to be the stuff you never felt before within Christmas or your holiday, whatever you're doing or not. You have to remember that wherever you're trying to find this place in yourself that feels that you're going to whether achieve the feeling of feel good or achieve the success of how I'm going to feel in a relationship or how I'm going to feel in my career, money, all these areas. It's in the space you haven't been through before or experienced that before. So a lot of this is like, the ego is really basic because if you think about it, it always goes back to the place it for sure knows because it's so fragile, right? So all these places in our lives where we're like, oh, this is exactly what I want it to feel like, that's because it's so fragile. It can't experience it another way because it already has the guarantee it felt good at a moment in its life, which always is short-lived, by the way. And so then the other part of it, flip it around, is the reason why you're feeling like, oh, this is hard in life or this is problematic is because it's also fragile. And yeah, this is where I know it feels good, but oh, when it doesn't feel the way that I want to and I can't access that good, now I'm in craziness because I will do everything in my path to feel the way that I want to feel. For even saying I want to feel this way is the ego. I want to feel happy, right? So most people without true identities, they're very verbs. I always say this, right? They're always the verb. I want to be happy. Well, you can't be a verb. You can't be the act of something. I want to be nice. I want to be happy. I want to be loved. I want to be... No, you have to pick the noun. And this is a noun that you've never been before. So you have to... The person, the place, the thing, it has to be much more specific. And we are coming very close to a draconic north node, meaning if you look at your draconic astrology chart, we all place our north nodes at 0 Aries and 0 minutes and 0 seconds. And that helps you understand. We move the houses, we move the planets, all at the same degree that we move the north node to the 0 point of Aries. Whatever that difference is, you apply that difference all the way around, including the ascendant. So everything's just moving into different signs and different degrees, but it looks like the same chart. Well, it's really weird when you look at the draconic astrology collectively, because it's a reset that we get once every 19 years where everybody has the same chart. We have the same placement. And this one's weird. 19 years ago, and now I know it's not this week, but I'm just preparing you as you come into this final week of 2024 and this new moon, this Venus square Uranus, this north node in Aries that's coming to its close here with Chiron that's about to station direct on it. I mean, that whole North Node Chiron thing's a whole other story, right? Talk about an 18-month cycle we've been in where, trust me, unless you're born with North Node Chiron, like somebody like me or people born in like 84, 90, there's a couple other years, right, that I could go off, but they're very rare. And our lives are, no, we don't ever get to, we don't ever want the feeling I want to feel this way. We don't get that. We learn very deep and young in life. We don't get what we want. Even in our destiny, it's not about that. It's about being guides. And so the more that you could help guide other people and then guide yourself and guide your ego through these horrible moments that are not that horrible and realize, hey, why are you trying to run and jump and do all these things and win every war that's not even a war within yourself? It's just, you could stop that right now. Stop going after things. Stop trying to define what I'm manifesting. That's why you're seeing, have you noticed many manifest teachers right now aren't really talking about it because they're failing themselves. They're like, why? It's because your ego doesn't have control of that manifesting aspect. Right? We live in a world where the universe is the one that is putting us in divine timing. And so this is bringing us into a world of divine timing again. But the idea that, we're finally finishing some big stuff and we're coming to some big closes in some of these cycles, especially that North Node Aries getting close, this Mars retrograde in Leo, trying to find true happiness through a new way to courageously, take action and move into things that actually do align with your heart more, your creativity more, and not this showboaty part. And the opposition of Pluto is, guess what? The thing that you seek that's going to make you feel more strong, courageous, is not something that is going to be easy to just find. It's going to have multiple different things that have to come together because Aquarius has a divine timing aspect to it as well. When the right pieces all come together, when you finally have the epiphany moment where finally, after a period of time, all of those things come into synchronicity and make sense and have the epiphanal moment. So you have to remember that we are in this huge divine timing life. And so the more that you can remember that whatever that challenge or that fear is that's coming up in your ahead moment here, let it go. Because guess what? At any moment, that last piece, that last situation, that divine timing moment comes in and will take care of those things that you need to. So it's a massive faith test because this all comes back to this Jupiter square Saturn, this Chiron that's stationing literally at the exaltation point of the sun. And we did have a total solar eclipse that went through America on April 8th, if I'm correct. That was exactly at 19 degrees of Aries, conjunct Chiron, exactly. So this is bringing up a lot, especially when it comes to the past with Saturn and Pisces that's going to square Jupiter. It's retrograde in Gemini. It's almost kind of like we have to find a way to not let the patterns of the past become controlling of our minds, meaning I'll never get over this pattern is a good example, or I always do this. I always end up in this situation. Well, that's how we learn. It's not about getting angry or frustrated over these things. It's not about trying to force things as well, because when Mars is in opposition to Pluto, guess what? It's really easy for us to think the more that we dominate through whether it's pushing all the way, pushing something to the limit, or even sometimes trying to attract things in that doesn't have that genuineness, it does not cause anything good. So everywhere you look in the astrology right now, it's the biggest faith test of, okay, let me not trust my mind here. It's playing tons of tricks on me from my past patterns, belief systems that I'm starting to turn into actual fact that's not. And, when I show you the chart of the new moon, I think it'll make a lot more sense about how we really step into this Capricorn new moon, the first one that we've had without Pluto in the same sign in 16 years. So as we do on Deep Astrology, we're going to look at the three-dimensional charts here and look at the helio. It's how we always start it, because it's important. We have to remember, especially if you're not on high vibe, you probably don't get anybody that's really going play by play every week with what's happening up in the helio. And it was great to see a flat earther finally go down to the Antarctics and finally see the sun for 24 hours and the moon for 24 hours and actually finally go, we got it wrong. Because, it's really hard being an astrologer and having the flat earth community, like, they have good intentions. They're good people. I'm not putting them down, but it's like, that's an old model and it doesn't make sense with the way the world works. And especially when you look at how predictive you can use the understandings of the retrogrades to all the way to understanding what's going to happen in the world using whether it's a helio chart or even just looking up at a solar chart. It's incredible. It makes so much sense. But it's just nice to see finally, that's a humble moment, right? It's like, it'd be like if you were a flat earth person and you believe so hard and then you finally see the fact what it is. Are you going to completely just keep believing it? Or are you going to finally, is it that bad of a situation? Like, I'm sure all the knowledge that guy learned from flat earth, applying it to actually the way it's working, could do something way crazier, more amazing, right? Like, you can't see the possibility till you get to the moment of like, oh shit, I always do this. I always believe something that, let's say in his case, I always believe something that isn't true. Well, it's like, you don't always do that. Maybe this was the thing that has you shift that in a new way. I'm just using a random example, but it's trying to help you understand here, like, this isn't all as bad as you think. And this is also where you have to stop. I don't even want to say being a kid, because actually that's better. Like, just stop being a soul that's just forgotten it's a soul. And like, stop being so harsh on yourself. Stop being so critical of yourself, because, Saturn and Neptune, when they come in Aries, they ain't going to like that. And in Pisces right now, it's easy because we can kind of keep forgiving ourselves in the craziest way or trying to escape, but that ain't going to be how the future is. There's not going to be a lot of room for continually to beat yourself down. And a lot of people do that and try to put it off on other things or try to mask that. But there is no excuse for continually beating yourself up for something that is not fact, especially ones that you make up in your head. Not going to work. All right, so let's take a look where we are at for the 3D stuff here. So we're going to show that, constant shell and asteroid. Oh, there we go. I don't like the asteroid book. All right, here we are on this 23rd. We're doing this for the 24th until the 30th this week. So, coming into this week, we have to remember we have the big race going around the sun. We got Mars, Earth, and Venus, right? And of course, Mars is going to lose around the sun, Earth is going to lose, and Venus is going to win. But the last time that we had a setup like this, and I will do it, I know I did it last week for most people that are on High Vibe, but I'm just going to do it. The last time we had this is exactly when Nostradamus in his prophecies book put it in, and it's not the quatrains, it's literally looking at the preface that he writes his son and the date and using astrology and using dates in it. And it's March 1st of 1555. And that's how he predicts everything forward and back. And it's crazy because he goes, once you get to a moment like this, without saying that, without normally as an astrologer, you better pay the fuck attention. And guess what's happening right now? We are in the same movements of the retrogrades and so forth as 1555. And it's pretty kind of crazy actually to see. I've been trying to tell this to people for many years now in Hypergate. But same thing. There it is. Mars, Earth, Venus. I can take it a month back. Right? Same thing coming around. There was the Mercury. That was coming around after the Mercury retrograde, right? The Mercury was retrograde there, but as you move forward, there's Mercury coming out of retrograde. There's Mars, same alignment, but instead of it being Saturn right there, so see that alignment from Earth, Venus opposed Mars. We just saw that in the last 2 weeks. But it was Venus conjunct Pluto. That was Venus and Saturn back then, so Nostradamus could have calculated that one easy. Now, so I'll show you, it's the same race around at the exact same time, but see that alignment right there? Now we'll bring it to today here. All right, hold on. Let's bring it to actual time today. And, it was actually a couple weeks back, right? We just saw this Venus-Mars opposition, and there's Pluto. So we saw that Venus, so it was actually, what was that like? Yeah, it was about, something like that. But you can see right there, there's Pluto now on the other side. But same alignment, and then there was Mercury, right? And then moving forward, Mercury coming out of retrograde here, boom, right? So that's where we're at now, is understanding this is just, it's been over 500 years almost since we've seen this. Then it's been almost 4,000 years since we've seen Mars opposite Pluto like this in a retrograde in this space, and to do exactly what it did. So this ain't a joke. So you can tell with the Mars opposite Pluto energy, right, is seeing that Mars and Pluto are getting ready to oppose right there. So here we are Christmas Eve night, right? And you can see that Mars and Pluto are getting ready to oppose the Earth, right? But the big one, of course, Christmas Eve night is Jupiter and Saturn in square. So if we take it this helio-wise, and if we want to use this, let's just go there. From a sun helio point of view, there's Saturn, but from a geo point of view, there's Saturn. So there's Saturn, there's Jupiter, and that's a 90-degree angle, right? So the Earth right there, and then you just go out right here, right? And there's Saturn. So from an Earth point of view right there, boom, boom. So that's a big one this week. That's the second one. The next one, of course, is coming on the solstice. The next solstice, 6 months from now. And that will be with Sun conjunct Jupiter square Saturn. It'll be pretty crazy. And actually, that's when Sophia and I are going to have a son. That's like the due date is on that square. Kind of crazy, but true. This week, we have to remember that's happening in the background. And when we get out of this week, we come into that Mars opposite Pluto, which is extremely volatile. And we're going to have another one, of course. But it's going to take a while because Mars is going to retrograde in Cancer for a long time. But we are going to come back to that into the end of fall or end of spring or end of winter coming up and coming into the spring. But, that's happening. The Jupiter square Saturn, Venus square Uranus. But I want to show you, it's only Mercury that's on one side of the whole half of the solar system. So from Mars to Pluto, every planet's on one side except Mercury. And Mercury's all by itself on this side of the sun. So again, the mind is trying to process everything happening on the other side of the sun, but it's kind of crazy because it's almost like you can't see it. None of the planets can see Mercury because Mercury's on the other side of the sun. So the mind is kind of blinded, but we could try to piggyback a little bit and try to understand things, but it's very difficult to. It's very difficult. So you have to remember that this is, again, our mind could be racing and trying to figure everything out. We don't want to let our minds race too much, especially from a geo perspective, being in Sag, not the best time right now to use your mind to figure it all out and play things logically. Now, as we come to, we're doing this till the 30th, of course. This Earth getting ready to see Mars and Pluto in opposition. See that? That's going to be 3 days away. Mercury's way on starting to move around the sun, so that Mercury retrograde's over, and that Mercury's going to start picking up a lot. And it's quite interesting because if you think about it, Saturn in Pisces, and here we've got Venus that's moving fast in Aquarius. It's going to be square Uranus. But it's interesting because the way that the Earth works and how Venus is moving, Venus is getting ready to come into Pisces as we come into the new year and make that conjunction and be with those planets, with that Neptune, Saturn. From a helio point of view, you can see that, and they're going to be happening on that 0 point. You can see that right there. And you're going to see that's the 0 part of when you look at it from a geo or even equatorially. This is that 0 spot. And so you can see these two starting to come together, right? And this is monumental that the North Node, even from an Earth's point of view, is coming into this viewpoint here. So this zone is reset city, but add some other elements like the Mars retrograde in opposition to Pluto and how long it's taken and a lot of these other aspects that are happening. It's quite wild, but it's interesting to see that Jupiter square Saturn even happening from a helio point of view as well. So if we look at Jupiter from a sun point of view and we just do that 90 degrees, there it is, there's Saturn, right? So that's coming in within a degree by the end of this week. And then of course it's Mars on its way to oppose Pluto from a sun point of view, right? So even that's coming the more that we kind of move, right? Look at that, Mars and Pluto, and that'll actually be in January, and look at that. So this world is in an extreme place, and you're going to be all right, but you're going to have to put your fucking best on in yourself and stop whining and complaining and bitching over stupid shit within yourself. And you're going to have to stop waiting for this perfect moment, which really it's divine timing. Divine timing is a perfect moment, but it's better than a perfect moment. It's divine. Perfect and divine are not even close. Divine is divine. Divine is the ultimate. Perfect's okay. Right? Because it's still from a human kind of lost, egoic, connected to Aries and Libra access version of things. So let's look at the chart, see what we got going on. Of course, we have that Jupiter square Saturn. Of course, if you don't know, there's a Jupiter, and this is Saturn. And of course, remember, this is the clash of the father and son. And right now with Saturn, that's direct. And with Jupiter, that's retrograde. This is where the father looks like he's going to win. It's almost like, I think I know where Jupiter is. I ate a rock from my wife, Rhea, but I'm going to find him and I'm going to take him out. Right? It's also a battle of the Titans and the Olympians right now. If you know your Greek mythology and Roman mythology. I did this like a Mortal Kombat version, so you have a better understanding of this big square with Washington, D.C. as the background in Mortal Kombat. And there's Jupiter again, Zeus, and here's Kronos. Kronos is going to win this match. Best 2 out of 3, right? It's like a young Zeus and an old Kronos. This one was kind of a cool one too. But, you know, these are the 2 biggest planets in square. The 2 gas giants in square. So add to every other thing going on in the astrology that's extreme. Don't you dare for 1 second be like, well, I'm supposed to feel normal. Pfft. I hope that you repeat that in your brain for the next 5 months especially. I hope every time that you're like, I'm supposed to feel normal in the world, in my life, just have the Leo King's voice in your head being like, you're a fucking idiot. The fucking clash of all time's happening. No, you should feel like it's all clashing, and that's divine. Oh, okay. You'll feel better. So let's see. On this Tuesday, December 24th, we got that sun. Of course, it's in Capricorn. There's nothing in Capricorn now. No more Pluto. And here's Mercury at 11 degrees. Just finished, of course, that third conjunction to Antares and that opposition to Aldebaran. Just so you know, it was November 9th. Mercury came there. It was December, 4th or 5th. It retrograded over that, and now it's back. So that's how long we've been seeing this Mercury here in Sag forever. And it's at, of course, its detriment, right? Mercury's not happy here. It's only getting a little bit of help because of the mutual reception with Jupiter, right? But they're both neutralizing themselves out, right? Without that, they'd both be in the negative. They're both in detriment, right? Detriment, Mercury's minus, Jupiter's minus. So they're already not happy. And then Jupiter, really, if you think about it, isn't happy at all. Being in Gemini, and Mercury's in the worst sign. So this Jupiter square Saturn, that's building up. Jupiter at 1401. And here's that Saturn, 1401. This is the exact square of Jupiter square Saturn here. Christmas Eve. Feels like Scrooge is taking over Christmas Eve. And no, there aren't 3 ghosts from Christmas past, future, and present that are going to save the Scrooge feeling. Scrooge is giving coal away this Christmas. Amazon drivers are on strike. Everybody's trying to act like everything's okay when everybody's running their credit cards up. So, and that's where this Jupiter's trying to, well, at least there is a credit card to fucking make it happen. But there's that Saturn well, we're not going to be able to expand everything or pay all that off right away. Or no, they're not going to keep dropping the rates in 2025 the same way, right? There's this, here, we're going to try and blow it all up and expand. Nope. We're going to start pulling things back, Saturn. That's this whole push and pull thing. But there's a neutralization to it, too. The sun is also going to make a quincunx to Mars retrograde that's now at 3 degrees of Leo now. Remember when retrograde at 6 degrees Leo, and it's going to go all the way back to 17 degrees of Cancer. So this Mars is going to be in retrograde for a while here, and it's already been retrograde since December 6th. We're already on the 24th. It's been almost 20 days, and it's only gone not even 3 degrees. It's like 2.5. The Mars retrogrades take a long time to finally get moving, and so we're going to start to see it move this week, but not really yet. And this is a weird quincunx, to be honest with you, because at the same time, we're going to see that moon be quincunxing over to Uranus. We're going to see the Saturn square Jupiter. Right? We also have that Mercury starting to build that opposition to Jupiter. We're going to see that complete here in Christmas Day into the day after, right? So there's this trying to find as much hope in our minds as possible, but you can't overdo it when it comes to trying to find the solution to something or believe yeah, that's the answer. No, that ain't the answer, right? This is going to be a very intense time, especially as this moon in Libra is finishing out. And this is the last time the moon will be in Libra with the South Node in Libra for 16 or 19 years. Right? Because we're going to see that North Node come into Pisces in the next couple of weeks. So this is unfortunately a weird Christmas to come into because it is a lot about letting our minds not have it figured out, letting this perfectionism idea of how we think life should be, and especially our ego and our identity and what that perfect thing looks like, go. Just erase that, right? And I think that's important because even that sun in Capricorn here in quincunx to Mars, no, you're not going to achieve things by just brute force. And no, identifying how it's all going to look right now is not going to be easy at all. The only 2 planets that deal with identification are Mars and the sun. And they actually would like to switch, right? Mars likes to be exalted in Capricorn. The sun likes to be at home in Leo. So it's a weird quincunx, but they're not going to show a mutual reception, but there is one in a weird way, right? They would rather switch, but they can't. And so this isn't about, well, what do I achieve? It's just about how you just get through it and that you don't need to take extraordinary, crazy steps to pass through these times. Jupiter square Saturn is a lot like what Atreyu has to kind of go through in the never-ending story. It's like a test of heart. It's a test of, faith, and to not, kind of stutter in the middle when the fucking weird fucking naked chicks are going to blow you up. Like, you got to have the faith, and you have to show that. And then you have to have the weird troll fucking like, yay! Right? You got to like move through this. And you don't need to fucking do it crazy. You don't need to push hard. At least we have Mars aligned with these nodes, which is kind of nice. And we're going to see that north node in alignment with Mars and the south node, of course, throughout this Mars retrograde, which is kind of nice. But again, it's one where it's like, hey, we're ready for whenever divine timing shows up. So there's a part of us that like has this, I'm ready for when it comes. And that's okay to have, but you can't then start to try to force things to come. Right? It's kind of just like always being on, like just always being on and be like, okay, I know when the moment comes, I know what to do. And that's all you have to be. You don't have to be more than that. Right? You don't need to be like, well, when is that moment? When is that moment? And how is it going to look? And how's it going to be? And then trying to stir the pot to make it happen. So Christmas Day is quite interesting. Sun at 4 Capricorn here. It's coming off that quincunx right away. But we're going to see that moon finally ingress into Scorpio. It'll square Pluto, of course, but it is going to be in sextile to the sun. And this is like old school shit. So it's kind of weird. We haven't seen sun be in Capricorn with the moon now dispositing Pluto in Aquarius while the sun's in Capricorn. We're used to having the sun always with Pluto the last 16 years. So this is going to feel a little different, a little old school. Of course, the moon's in its fall position. The sun is kind of just sitting there in Capricorn. And what's interesting here is like a lot of stuff's in detriment. The moon's in fall. And so the only planet having anything here is Jupiter, believe it or not. And it's just been in that square. And it's weird because it finally comes down to 13 degrees here. And so these are some really interesting degrees that Mars has retrograded over from like 16 to 13. These are, it's actually more like 17 to 13, but that brings up all the Venus transits. And for this might be kind of advanced astrology for people, but 2004 and 2012, right? We saw the Venus transits where Venus eclipsed the sun. So during the Venus retrogrades of Gemini of those two periods, was a rare event that only happens once every 120 years. We won't see it for another 100. And those were the degrees where we saw the conjunctions of those cazimis that happened in the actual event of the eclipses. And so here's Jupiter now 12 years later after having one, not having one, kind of closing out a lot of those doors there, meaning that you could look at the last 16 years with Pluto and Capricorn, but at the same time, you could take it back to 2004. And so all the lessons you've learned from, and wherever this might be in your chart or wherever this just is overall, what were the themes of June of 2004 and June of 2012 and then June of 2020 and then even June of 2024, there's been something. Like for me, it was career. It was like, oh, got out of the Navy and started my first big job, became a manager. 2012, okay, like my astrology popped off like a motherfucker. 2020, my astrology popped off like a motherfucker in a different way. And then 2024, it was like, people fucking hate me now. And I felt like I'm kind of going backwards out of the 2004, right? It's kind of weird. But Jupiter's here to deliver us a big gift. And this is the retrograde of like, have some, I ask for you on this holiday week to kind of come back and kind of think, well, what are those themes that have been going on for me in that Gemini? Wherever it might be in your chart, for me, it's in my 10th house. You know, where is this Jupiter retrograding? Because it's bringing you back farther than Pluto Capricorn. It's bringing you back to 2004. And this is trying to understand, like, what did you learn from all those things? Because the Saturn square there, it almost kind of feels like, is that pattern now going to turn a bad corner? And I think this is every moment of this whole week and for the rest of your life. I hope you take this on, that you got to stop taking every pattern you're retracing and feeling or that reoccurs in your life and go, it's going to turn a bad corner now. You know, let go of that. So Saturn is here teaching us with Neptune in Pisces. We haven't seen that since 1523, 500 years. Right? This energy of like, okay, we've got to really put a stop to always like, it's going to turn bad. This situation or this always happens this way. And so Jupiter is here to help in many ways get to the facts of like, well, will that happen really? Maybe we need to see where are the good patterns that have been going on. And so that's also where the Sun Capricorn, Moon in Scorpio, right? Like allowing these old patterns to die, and especially the way that we're looking at them and how we're structuring them in our lives, because they're part of our structure of our lives. You know, sometimes they're more subconscious, it's Pisces, right? Or they're hidden, but we need to be more attention to where's that hidden, like, why do I always do that to myself? Why do I always put myself down? Why do I always think that the pattern is going to happen or something bad's going to happen, right? That's within us that we have to make a shift about. And we got to look at it more internally than externally, meaning, well, because the world's doing this right now, or because I saw that, or this person's triggering me or whatever. This is about really starting to allow ourselves to restructure how we are within. And, you know, at least the dump trucks here, the Moon and Scorpio, to let those emotions stop trying to hang on emotionally, hold on emotionally to those old patterns, those toxic patterns of, oh, it's going to turn bad now. It's going to turn bad now. Let that go. Right? That Moon's also going to be in square to Mars retrograde. That Moon's, of course, in square to Pluto. And so that Moon's on Christmas is feeling this Mars opposite Pluto, which means that, you know, it does feel like the true feeling is something extreme is going to happen soon. And we know that in our lives, in the world, and all that. But it's about allowing ourselves to kind of clear out the clutter of all the toxic kind of pattern traits or the dark traits we think that it will be, right? So especially that Mercury at 12.5 degrees starting to square Saturn and oppose Jupiter, right, on Christmas. Not jolly. But definitely seeing like, okay, how do I find the best in this and actually find something constructive out of all this, and actually at the same time stop looking at, you know, what I'm hoping for always to look like and then being mad that it doesn't come that way, but being very open and also using that Mercury square Saturn to focus, and that Mercury opposite Jupiter to look at just facts. Like maybe you might be taking, hey, is it that bad? For a fact? No? Okay, then why are you thinking it's that bad? I think that anything that's going to be hard is going to also deal with, you know, having to face some hard facts too. But I think that because we've already been through this square multiple times, but now it's tighter with this T-square to Saturn, with Jupiter there in square and Mercury in square, you know, these Mercury and Jupiter are not happy. They're both in their detriment. They're both mutual recepting as best as they can, but it almost becomes kind of like, I don't know, a long distance relationship that never gets to hang out, right? Like, so I feel like there's a big I feel like this Christmas is a purge, right? Like a purge of our, like, let me let go of these stupid things in myself and these stupid things I think are always going to maybe happen that's bad. And let me restructure myself and actually allow myself to take the bad version of patterns I see and find where's the good version of it. And it's not going to be the answer to all the courage that you need to find or anything. It's just going to be, let's take some of this weight off the table, right? Because Jupiter square Saturn also is this like big battle of like, okay, what beliefs are we taking with us and what structures are we taking with us? What realities and what hopes that we have? And the ones that align. So we have to condense to like a couple versions of our lives instead of all these fragmented different versions, right? Like we have too many, oh, it could be this, it could be that, right? So wherever you are, it's kind of like, okay, let me take a lot of this extra, and also let me take a lot of these realities that I think are going to be bad that aren't going to be bad off the table here. So this Mercury can help, right? Mercury might be in Sag, so it's like Mercury's kind of running around the house as Jupiter and Saturn are like, we're trying to figure out what we're taking with us. And Mercury's like, I don't know. I have so many things I'm trying to figure out. It's like, but it's that one little thing that Mercury says that, oh, helps Jupiter and Saturn here. It's that one little thought that has you, oh, you know what? Yeah, I can't take all this extra off my plate here. And this moon in Scorpio, the sun in Capricorn, it does feel very Scrooge. I mean, let's be real. So this is a Scrooge Christmas. But especially if you're chasing things, right? Like chasing a relationship, chasing money, because here's this Venus in Aquarius. So, there's going to be a lot of like, if you're chasing a relationship, if you're chasing money, if you're chasing something to make you feel better, but there's a toxic aspect to it, that Venus is starting to square Uranus, right? In Taurus. And so I got a feeling there's going to be a shit ton of breakups with really weak relationships that are happening, right? Ones where you're chasing, ones where you just keep hoping, ones where I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know. Maybe this time. Right? Like this is the energy where it's like, it's not built strong at all. And it's going to be that the values aren't finding any place to connect with, really. And especially if it's based off desire or a hope to one day be a something, you already know the people in your life that have their place. The values are common and you don't have to worry about those things. So this Venus in Aquarius is like, I'm not going to be able to just connect with what I want, especially with the South Node being in Libra and the coming to the close of this. Yeah, I mean, I really look at this Christmas as kind of like the gift that keeps on giving. If it's a breakup post, if you're chasing somebody to go to Christmas for or whatever like that, right? It's kind of like, well, why aren't you guys together during Christmas? Obviously, your guys' values are different, right? So this is a much more revealing Christmas, right? It's like, why is this and this happening? Why is that and that happening, right? Very observational, very Aquarian, very like, right? And it's like very easy to see. But most people don't want to see it because they're just chasing. And, I love the excuse part of astrology, right? It's kind of like, well, but there's all these other things that they're making us do all this. It's like, shut the fuck up. If you really want to be with somebody or you really need to do this or whatever, you do it. You find a way. The values will find a way. Uranus and Taurus has every way to figure out how to make hard values and everybody figure a way to make things work out. But it's very telling, Venus square Uranus during this moment, of situations that just, okay. And so, I think, it's the chase or it's also, some people might not admit it, but it's like, I kind of like the space. And so if you're one of those people, like, I kind of am happy the person's away or they're not around me, well, that's extremely telling. So this is a Christmas where the weird scenarios aren't weird, they're true. It's not the way that you think it is. Oh, it's just an odd moment, like, and then the yapping starts to come. That Mercury square Saturn and that Mercury opposite Jupiter is the hopes and the excuses squaring Saturn, the reality that you don't want to face. So when we get out of Christmas, we get into that Venus getting more in square. So that's where it's like, it's almost like, especially these are the two planets that deal with relationships, the only two planets. So it's kind of interesting to me seeing that like the two planets dealing with relationships and the two planets dealing with identity are in quincunx, and then we go to Venus square Uranus. So it's the odd people who have no idea fully where their life's going with people that no idea where it really is or no way to define the relationship that are going to have the most chaotic Christmas, right? Because like it means that if you don't understand where you are in a relationship, well, obviously that means, first of all, you don't understand where you are at all as a person. So that's going to be the people who have the most chaos this Christmas. The people in the in-betweens. I kind of am in between this and what I'm doing in my life. I'm unsure. Well, of course, that means your relationship's kind of in this juggling and weird. Who am I, or who are they, or where are we going, or how's it going to look? Undefined, chaotic, right? That's what's coming. So, like, those things on the fence, those people who their lives are kind of on the fence, and their relationships on the fence, and that moon being in Scorpio, and then coming into oppose, and then T-square over to that Venus. So we're getting all these big, crazy like T-squares. Of course, the Mercury-Jupiter one with Saturn's more intense because it's planetary, but to have the moon come in to opposite Uranus while Venus is coming into square Uranus the day after Christmas, there's going to be explosions, and Mars is starting to oppose Pluto. People like realizing I'm defining my life over, I don't know where this relationship really is, and it's undefined, and I'm undefined, and oh shit. We also see Mercury squaring Saturn, extremely hard conversation. So, again, those are going to be more in the situations that are undefined and don't really know where they are. And this is all going to be the healing of that Chiron at 19 degrees. That's just days away from stationing direct. We can see that Chiron retro only doing 11 seconds. Sorry, there you go. And so there's a massive healing. And what's weird is Jupiter's been in sextile to Chiron when it started the retrograde, but it's not really in sextile now at 13 degrees. It's about 60 degrees away. Right? So, it's almost kind of like, sorry, Zeus ain't just going to let you get your immortality back in all these weird, any place where you're really not defined with. Right? And with relationships that you have you don't really know where it is. It's hard to define. When you're like, well, we're kind of together, we're kind of friends, we're kind of this, we're kind of that, we're kind of this. This is like wiping it off the board. And this is also interesting that we see the day after Christmas, the North Node come to 1 degree and 55 minutes of Aries, and it now starts closing the gap of that conjunction with Neptune, right? So we start to see that North Node Neptune now getting even closer to being in a very tight orb and intercepted between Pisces and Aries. So anything not aligned in your identity and soul is just going to get wiped off the board. That's how we start 2025, which is kind of interesting. And hard combos, oh boy. So I would not, especially if you're in those in-between spaces with relationships or people, there's some of us out there that don't have those, right? So this will be like, okay, like what are some serious things that we need to figure out in like reality in life? But for those that are like in those weird in-between relationships or hard to define and with people and situations, it could even be third parties and they don't know what's the situation here? Oh, this is about to get fucking weird. Especially that moon in Scorpio, that Mercury square Saturn, that Mars opposite Pluto, this Venus square Uranus. Talk about fucking things that aren't fitting in. Identities that aren't fitting in. Not going to happen anymore. So, and this goes back to like stuff that really already was in question this summer when Jupiter and Saturn did their first square. Like, did you learn that lesson already? And when Venus was in Leo and squared Uranus. Right? So you can go back to the summer and see how this is all coming back. So it's kind of like, it was weird then. Oh, it's really weird now. And I thought that we got over it. And that's where that Mercury opposite Jupiter is kind of like, hopefully it's going to be okay. And then the hidden moon in Scorpio, square Venus, and that Venus square Uranus is to come in. Uh-oh. So that's going to be interesting to watch. But just be nice, because there's going to be people that are going to be calling you like, oh no, you went through a breakup, and all you say back and to be nice is like, what do you mean? I thought you guys were kind of in between. Not really a breakup. Anything that's already been broken up, the universe is like breaking it up. Right? Stuff that's not defined right now, blah. Right? So also it might bring up in another area to kind of switch gears here is like things that are defined but not really been moving in projects, things that we're trying to work on, stuff like that, that stuff needs to have those hard talks and figure out some dates and figure out some stuff. Like just because it's the holidays, you can't be like, I'm checked out, it's the holidays. No. This shit needs to get figured out. This Mercury square Saturn for the third time in Sag, with Saturn in square to Jupiter and Jupiter in opposition to Mercury, this T-square. No. We need to figure this shit out. What is really falling behind the 8 ball here, and what is needing to get, like, we need to figure what's going down here. What's going on? How do we get back on track with these things? Right? But these in-between things and all that, or chasing energy, or hoping it'll be something, or push and pull, or I like it, or I don't like it, or whatever. Oh my God, this shit's getting fucking thrown out. Now we have to remember, we have a new moon coming, so we are going to see that moon when it comes into Sag here, and especially when it hits 6 degrees on this Friday, coming into this weekend. We have a dark moon the whole weekend. And I this reminds me of so long ago. I'll look it up for us real quick. I'll never forget. There was a new moon in fucking Capricorn at this degree within the last decade. I'll try to remember. And it was so interesting to remember the dark moon before the New Year's Eve and the New Year's Day. It was like so weird. But this is a weird one because the new moon will come before. But it's reminding me of that year, and we'll get to that one. I'll look at it up here at the last chart. But the sun will be at 6 degrees. Here's the moon coming into Sag. And remember that Mercury still in square to Saturn. So this Mercury square Saturn and the hard combos, this Saturn is not going to allow any of these like, oh, it's okay, I hope it's all right kind of ideas that about, especially in relationships, because we see Venus at 23 degrees square Uranus exact in Taurus, right? And what is Uranus in? It's in Venus's home. So this Venus in direct square with Uranus, and they are both in each other's homes. That's what makes Venus in Aquarius right now very weird with Uranus and Taurus, right? Because that mutual reception is in a square, right? So the out of place relationships are just not going to work. And the weird, or the third party person, or the weird trifecta, especially because you have to have, there's Pluto in Aquarius, right? So then anybody who has that third party that doesn't know where they fit, or that third person that likes somebody, but the other person doesn't like them, or all these situations are fucking happening, right? That especially ones that you're not defined in, because that's what's interesting about Chiron and Aries. Everybody's so focused on South Node Libra, they forget in Aries, once you define who you are, and that includes relationships, then there's no questions, and third parties aren't involved. But third parties are involved always when there's people who just are like, I don't know, it's in the air, I don't know. I still talk to my ex, I'm still friends with my ex, or whatever. Weird. It becomes weird, and this shit's gonna get fucking gnarly for people. This is not gonna be a jolly Christmas, because it's gonna be so many weird situations that people aren't facing, that this is like the week where you got to face all this shit. I don't give a fuck. You got to face it. Bam! And you got to have that communication that is not going to be easy to become clear, because it's going to be sensitive. It's going to bring up tons of emotion. And then this moon in Sag, it's going to be balsamic. And there's Mercury there. It's going to be like blah, 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 trying to fucking make sense of it. And it's just a bunch of blah, blah, blahs, right? Like, this is not the time for you to be undefined in the most basic sense of things. And you're wondering why it's going to get weird in those kind of relationships, if you're in those, or, the projects that you've defined but you haven't fully finished, or you got to get on top of all of these things. These are also the nodes starting to align with Pluto in Aquarius, which Pluto in Aquarius always is the weird twisting of people. And then you add Venus square Uranus. Oh, shit. So we have to remember, this weekend is really not about getting it in the world. This is waiting for a new moon, letting us, the last new moon, which was in Sag, we did have Pluto in Aquarius, right? And that was what was weird was, we had this new moon that was in Sag last time, and it was early in Sag, and it was in sextile to Pluto, and that just arrived for sure in Aquarius. So now this is kind of like this weird in-between zone here, and this moon in Sag kind of lost. Doesn't have a good way to gauge anywhere right now. And especially with Mercury still in Sag and still in shadow, post-shadow, after this retrograde, just waiting to come out of shadow by 22 degrees, not there yet. And Jupiter retrograde and Gemini is not a easy one. Jupiter and Saturn still within a degree of an orb squaring. And there's Mercury for 3 days. Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Thursday, Friday. 3.5, 4 days of Mercury square Saturn, right? So nothing that you think, whatever you think's so great, when it's not, it's so minimal, and it's also that little minimal, weird, undefined, unknown stuff that you're not facing. Those are the patterns that gotta leave. Like, oh, you're just gonna be friends with the person that you don't know who you're, that ain't gonna work anymore. You're gonna have the third party around that you don't know, or you're gonna have a third party that's always intermittent and butting heads with you and all this shit. That ain't gonna work. So to me, it kind of is it's a hard one, because I think it's just really about the people who are in the in-between relationships that are going to get wrecked, and then people who aren't in between stuff, not defined stuff, more what's defining it more that needs to be defined more in other areas. And if you're clear on that, I think it could be easy. Or for those that are undefined, needs to be clear, but one party probably doesn't want to make it clear. That's going to be hard, because when you deal with people, this Venus square Uranus is, people are obsessed with freedom too much, and then they see what happens with that. They get too much that they think is okay, that's not, and it gets really confusing. And there's always going to be somebody who's not happy in those scenarios. And that's where this Capricorn, now that Pluto's gone, is like, it's nice to have things where the authorities understand, because authority is not just about the authority you place on another. It's just the authority that you know you're allowed to do. Are you my friend? Are you my lover? Are you my husband, my wife? Are you my boss? Are you my this, right? You know the authority of what the boundary is now with Pluto out of Capricorn. But when you don't have those boundaries understood, and Pluto's in Aquarius now, and it's with people, and you don't have an authority set up, well, then guess what? The boundaries are anything, and it feels like that you're just pieces on a chessboard being moved around everywhere, and then it gets into a fucking stalemate, and that's what's happening. And so it gets to some, and it can also be where pieces are getting swapped out and weird shit. So, those kind of people and those relationships are going to get wrecked. And that's what leads to this weekend being really weird. The moon, of course, balsamic, going to be with Mercury, that's finishing its square to Saturn, opposing Jupiter, and finally we see that opposition end. And we see this balsamic moon, the dark moon, the devil days, as Michael Erlewine calls them from some of his old books, and that's actually in the Tibetan astrology where we get the balsamic moon from. These are the days where the dark shit can come through, even if it is a moon in Sag, right? So we have to remember that this is in Mercury in between, that this is your little mind isn't going to be able to figure all this shit out. And you emotionally are going to have to let go of the things that aren't working out and be hopeful that the right things will make sense and divine things will come into alignment. Especially, we have to let things go and the weird situations happen. And if you're not in weird relationship shit, right? You're defined in your relationships. Well, then for you, it's the situations of more, what are you creating and manifesting, that it's like, okay, that there's weird things that you're trying to understand. Just remember, this is a good moment to get some introspection, let things start to come together, let ideas kind of form on natural ways instead of you trying to force the idea, right? Venus will finally come off that square to Uranus. Jupiter and Saturn are, starting to come almost to a degree off the square. But the big one, of course, is Mercury at 15 degrees off that square to Saturn and off that square to Jupiter. And the moon going to highlight that and let us feel that, even though it's in balsamic phase. When it does cross that, that'll be later in the day on Saturday. We also are going to see Mars now at 2 degrees and 55 minutes of Leo in retrograde. So now we're starting to see it do almost a half a degree, right? What are we doing at Mars retrograde? 17 minutes. Oh. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, I started it. Mars at 3 degrees. This whole week, Mars at 3 degrees, and it finally goes to 2, right? 17 minutes a day right now. So, yeah, about 4 days for it to go a degree. But here's that Pluto getting ready to go to the first degree. And so we have to remember too that Uranus and Venus are in square. Whenever a planet's at 0 degree, it plays out the full unfiltered version of that sign with no other complication, just that sign. So the energy of Uranus and Aquarius is at Pluto's extreme. So if you have Venus in Aquarius and it's in square to Uranus, and Uranus is the ruler in Taurus, anything that's not fitting together, right, and anything that's really just kind of off and not defined, and the values aren't really understood, and you're trying to make all these weird values, it actually is people really realizing our values are not in sync at all, and that's why we're not defined together. And that, it makes it extreme. And then there's that Mars in opposition in Leo, kind of the chasing hope. You know, it's like, I like turtles and you don't. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, how's that going to work? I like turtles kid. He's not going to find a lover till he finds the girl who likes turtles like him. So, but that opposition, that basically being 1 degree, that 2 degree Leo 55-minute moon, right? We're within a couple degrees now of that Mars opposition Pluto. So that becomes this extreme force that's not going to allow anything that's not genuine at all be connected either, and pure of heart and pure of how it really works in society. Nothing that is weird in society and not really of the heart is going to be allowed to pass. This is kind of an Atreyu in the never-ending story times we're in, right? Where the nothingness is taking over. Well, so you're not going to be able to pass through anything with these oppositions and all this stuff and be Atreyu and think you're going to make it through. I don't care if you got Falcor, it ain't going to happen. If you're not pure of the heart and it's not fucking genuine, it doesn't make sense and it doesn't fit in the world and it doesn't make any sense in the value system, it ain't going to work. Ain't going to make sense logically, ain't going to make sense fucking even in the story itself, the never-ending story. Ain't going to make story in the story in Sag. Right? Like sending I hate that fucking story, the whole movie, because the little kid that reads the book is such a loser, and so he lives his life through Atreyu, and then, oh, he thinks it's him. It's not him. Don't buy that bullshit. He wasn't meant for that story. But people who make that story up in their head that there's something more than they are in a relationship and this and that he can save the world, he can do that. It's not going to happen that way. And this is that reality check week. It's much more of like you being honest in where you're at with things, and it's not a bad thing, and coming back, and there's a lot of healing, right? This 28th is the last day of Chiron retrograde. So we're seeing the station of Chiron doing 4 minutes here. There's 4 seconds, sorry. And about to station direct. And it's weird because the sun is just kind of chilling here in Capricorn at 7 degrees, not really in too much aspect. But what's actually really interesting too about this Mercury, man, this poor Mercury this week, really, Mercury and Jupiter this week are not having a good week. But Mercury at 15 minutes, making an exact semi-square to Pluto. That one will be exact. So this one also, not only is Mercury in square to Saturn, then it's semi-square over to Pluto. So you want to talk about some hardcore truth coming out and some hardcore shit that's not fucking fun to talk about, especially off the weird stories that don't genuinely make sense and that don't have any definition and you kind of don't know where it's going. That shit's not going to end up good. So be prepared if you're in those scenarios because it's going to be weird. This does feel like a very big closure to the weird. Anything that's weird in your life, especially around people or situations or things that you don't know where they're going and projects and stuff, like it either gets figured out, like, okay, at least we're going to do this or we're not, or it's just like, this is where the universe is just bye-bye, like especially in this balsamic phase. There's tons of breakups in balsamic phase of the moon. So this is a weekend, lots of breakups over the weird relationships, the people that you date that you don't define, the people that you've been too long with where you guys should be saying you're this or that or da-da-da. Or the exes that hang that don't, you know, and they get the weird shit. This shit's getting fucking bleh. Be an interesting week to watch. Definitely not your traditional, like, oh, just the holidays, you know, it's all good. Getting weird. And on Sunday, the moon stays balsamic dark moon. So we got the devil days all weekend and we've got a balsamic moon all weekend. And so nobody's going to really feel like they have a lot in them to be able to go do a lot of shit. So remember that that's okay. With all these squares and all these oppositions, we're in divine timing, waiting for things to happen. And it's going to feel like, well, David, I need this shit to happen in my life now. This is happening. Well, we will see Chiron station direct on the 29th, right? So we're going to see that station here and finally station direct by the end of the day on Sunday. The balsamic moon, that moon going to cross over that Mercury. Mercury's finally going to be 17 degrees. Mercury's going to pick up some speed finally and start doing over a degree in 13 minutes right here. So that's actually about the speed Venus is normally doing, but Venus is now doing 1 degree in 5 minutes. So Mercury's faster than Venus. Really interesting. And Mercury goes double as fast than this already. So let's not forget is that Venus is coming into square Uranus this week. It's slowed down. It's slowing down. Venus is too far away from the sun, right? Way too far away. So past the semi-square, right? So this is where Venus is only going to go into Pisces and a little bit of Aries in retrograde in the beginning of 2025. So we're already in a Mars retrograde. And then within the week of Mars stationing direct, Venus retrogrades. This is going to be a crazy 2025. And so nothing that's why you can already tell. This is like a week where it's like before we come into 2025, where it's going to be the craziest year of our lives. I've said that. I said 2024 will not be the craziest year. 2025 will of our lives, period. This is the week that's like, yeah, you think this is going to work? It's not working and it's weird? Bye-bye. You don't have time for that shit. This is definitely a week of, why are you fucking around with this? Bye-bye. Because this is not your traditional Venus square Uranus and Taurus, in Aquarius especially, right? Because when was the last time that it could have been weird? Well, the last time that Venus retrograded in Aries back into Pisces, where it was slowing down in Aquarius, was back in 2017 and Uranus was in Aries. So this is the first Venus in Aquarius slowing down to square Uranus and Taurus that both are in each other's home. You want to talk about fucking frazzled out, weird, cracked out relationship shit that doesn't work, that was always never meant to work, coming to your fucking, not just movie previews, but to the fucking theater this week and weekend. While a dark moon's happening, and it's going to be the first new moon in Capricorn in 16 fucking plus years without Pluto. And Pluto's ready to come to that 1 degree. So it's interesting. By the time we finally get to Monday, the new moon happens at 9 degrees and 43 minutes in Capricorn. And this new moon has no traditional aspects. Now, I've been trying to show this one to people on High Vibe for a while. This new moon is weird as fuck. Okay? A lot of them have been. They have not been making major aspects. So it's almost kind of like they're not really setting things off with a very clear understanding, right? This new moon is not in a square. It's not in an opposition. It's not in a trine. You can barely even call that a sextile. It's 5 degrees off. It's 4.5 degrees off. It's not really doing shit. Sure, you can see, look at the Ceci quadrant over to fucking Uranus, but even that's not perfect. But still, sesquiquadrant, it's fucking very close. And that's already with Uranus, which is a little weird. So this is a really weird new moon because it's like no Pluto. 16 years now. It's been, oh shit, always Pluto in there. Nope, no Pluto. And Saturn's in Pisces where it's dispositing, and that's finishing a square with Jupiter in Gemini, but it's past that and it's on its way to Neptune. Now it's looking at Neptune. So there is a confusion and kind of like a lost sense of how are we gonna stay alive, because Pluto's been in Capricorn where it's very easy to find your survival skill in Capricorn. It's like, well, I'll do this, I'll make this plan, I'll do this next. And so you have to throw all that out the window. And that's really what this dark moon's going to be about the weekend coming into Monday. And the new moon is like, hey, all your ideas of how you think you survive don't work no more, right? How you keep it going, it don't work no more. You got to try all this new shit. And this Capricorn's setting a whole new foundation of like letting go of things that are weird, that don't fit into your life and don't fit and that aren't working out, having the hard ideas, thoughts, conversations, being honest, seeing what's pure of heart and, work in society and what isn't. And so it's at the same token where it's like, the reason the Pluto does trine the South Node, so it's really easy to kind of like get obsessed with that and be like, well, maybe it's a relationship that'll save my life. No, it's not. It's you understanding where you're going. And with Neptune there, it already can be hard in interception and Pisces especially. But it's like, is that part of your divine plan? Like, was that part of your divine life? Like, is that part of your divine soul? Like, it's pretty clear and easy to see. Because anything you're connecting with now is aware of that divine soul in themselves and what it's connecting with. Anybody who's unsure is not part of your life, shouldn't be, right? And if you're having questions within yourself about somebody, you should be honestly like, what am I doing to that person? So this Venus is going to be kind of weird too at 26 degrees here. Like I said, really far away from the sun. And it's kind of in weird lost town, right? So Chiron's direct at least. And so this new moon comes in ready to go on the next whole new structure of redefining our lives from a lot of the pain that our ego has brought us on and healing that pain by setting up a whole new structure that's not about survival, not about what to try to be flexing or successful at, right? This is also us getting closer to Pluto in Aquarius and remembering that conjunction is going to be happening on the 21st of January. So in many ways, this is like the closing new moon of the last 16 years of like, no longer is it about the way that you survive off, I just make this plan and I just do this and it happens. None of that's working anymore. And things that are really not genuine and not really in alignment of authenticity aren't going to work, right? And especially the weird scenarios are going to be where Pluto's exposing weird situations in relationships or people or weird people that like, why do you have to deal with weird people that don't really fit within your genuine heart or they take away from it or don't be encouraging somebody that likes you, but you don't like them. Like that is just going to be the weird shit that's going to come up that this new moon in Capricorn's like, okay, let's set down a foundation. I'm going to learn from my past mistakes and I'm going to learn from the past, but I'm not going to live the past and move out of the past. And so this is about clearing out so much old shit. And Pluto just cleared out the whole new foundation. So this new moon's setting on a whole new Capricorn land and it's a goat going, what is the new mountain? And I don't have to rush to the top, but let me make sure I do this the right way and I don't repeat my mistakes from the past. Since this is a new moon in Capricorn, it does bring up Saturn, which is in Pisces. And it just dealt with the big square to Jupiter that was in retrograde in Gemini. So it's like, you just can't believe that you thought the best way through this so that you can figure it out. It's like, is this aligned spiritually and not? Is this a past pattern? Is this you trying to relive your past? Is this you too afraid to let go of your past? That's why you're in these scenarios. Whatever it might be, you got to let go. So this is like a huge let go of the past. And even this North Node in Aries, that's now really close. It's only at 1 degree, that North Node in Aries, 6 minutes. That Neptune at 27 and 17. So we're starting to narrow in that gap. And it's like, again, anything that's really not spiritually aligned in the true, authentic version of you, Chiron's now direct. Like the healing is really like, I'm not going to live my past. I'm not going to keep repeating my past. I'm not going to let my past be my bitch anymore. I'm not going to keep, it's so weird. We always quit the good things and we always try to take on the worst things. Those kind of scenarios are ending on this new moon. And that's kind of the tone, I think, that we're setting into 2025, as this is the new moon that really just a day after this is the last day of 2025, and that's a moon in Capricorn. And then we come into 2025, and then we come into that Mars in direct opposition to Pluto. And that's what's interesting too, is that Mars at 2 degrees, 15 minutes, and there's that Pluto at 1 degree and 1 minute. So we're within a degree and just some change there in that opposition. And so again, I'd look at that as even with Mars in alignment with these nodes, that's where you're starting to see that rectangle right there, that mystical rectangle that's starting to form. But those are with the nodes. So, I do add aspects to the nodes just to try to get some more perspective on these charts, but I don't really count them. So don't start having a fucking Sagittarius, oh my God, moment in astrology right now. Remember, Gemini's astrology, Mercury is. It's not that magical. What's magical to me about this is how much shit that's not authentic and that's from the past that's being chucked out as we start this new foundation that we build in our lives. And what is this new authority? And remembering that if we don't have those boundaries understood of authority from the last 16 years, it's not going to work. And now the new authority is genuine heart space and with people, right? If you don't know how to genuinely show up with your heart to people, then you got some issues you got to figure out. If you are also trying to lead people on where you're genuinely not really that heartfelt and you're still trying to make it work because it's probably for what you're hoping people will think about you, or you're worried about what it'll do to another person, those situations are going to be like a test of if you're a true soul or not. Because if it's about, oh, I don't want to hurt that person. What do you mean? Like, you're hurting yourself and you're hurting that person and you're hurting another person, you're hurting another person down the line. So you have to, this new moon is like, is it about the external? No, it's about the internal. You should know damn well where you want to be with people in life. Like, I'm in love with you, so that's what it is. If you're doing it because, well, I'm kind of, and I don't know what I don't want to hurt that person and I don't want that person to be affected, well, then that's not true. That's inauthentic, and that's you not even living for yourself. And that's not you taking any kind of, it's not about control, but authority in your life about what's good for others and good for you and good for your life and good for the foundation of what you want to build in your life. So, this is getting rid of tons of messy scenarios. And for most people, it won't maybe be like I put it, it'll be the messy shit in your own self that you're ready to let go of, and where we felt, especially with Saturn and Neptune, extremely behind in every department, because since March of 2023, Saturn entered in here into Pisces. And so if you think about it, with Neptune that's been here since 2011 into 2012, this has been just like, we are behind. And so we cannot be living in that behind energy. We need to let go of so much that's keeping us behind, and old patterns and old things and situations that also aren't spiritually in alignment, because really this new moon in Capricorn is about divine alignment. And the more that we can let go of the past and let go of things that we learned lesson from, but we're moving on, and we're also not stuck in these weird interwebs, because even that Venus is still minorly in square, even though it's, a separating square to Uranus. Anything that really is like those weird scenarios, they're not going to, sorry. So you need to know where you stand within yourself. It's not about where you stand with others. It's like where you stand in yourself. And anybody that starts to kind of be the weirdo that comes around, or they don't know how to say who they are. I remember I told you we're moving to the world of the extrovert. The introvert's over. This is proof of it. And this will be, I could show you charts every week for the next fucking 20 years, and it's the time of the extrovert. That you're introverted, or the introverted person who doesn't know where they sit and all that shit, is always because somebody's leading them on. And you can't be that person. And then if you're that person who's introverted and sensitive and you don't know why, you need to start to speak up and be like, well, where's my space? Where's my definition in this? And where do you see in my story or your story, or how do you see my story? And that's where the control thing can get weird. Is some people are trying to control other people's stories without them realizing it, by being like, well, you're here because, you haven't made a choice, but really I haven't made the choice of what I want yet. And that's where it gets really funky. So those scenarios are going to be, I think, more of the weird shit. I mean, is this a time for decisions with Mars retrograde opposite Pluto, Mercury still in shadow and detriment, and Jupiter retrograde and detriment? I would say the decisions to make right now are in what is a past pattern and what's something from your past that you haven't let go of. Those are the choices to make. The things from the past that need to end. Those are the choices. Not about what am I making a choice for my future. You have to first go, what is from my past that I haven't let go of? What is still lingering around from my past that I need to let go of? My past way of doing things, these weird values I have that don't make sense, that aren't fitting in, the way that I go about, the approach that I go about to manifest things that isn't working anymore, the survival skills of what I used to think I could just slap this together and have this under my own plan and control and it worked every time. That's not going to work anymore. That's not going to work. So this is going to be a totally different way you look at life, is by clearing the past shit. Bye-bye. And then we're going to get one more major big part of that when we step into the eclipses in 2025 at the very beginning, with the North Node coming into Pisces and Neptune conjunct and Saturn conjunct and fucking Venus retrograde conjunct. And the last time we had all that like that was very extreme stuff, especially with Saturn and Venus and North Node energy, and with the way that we just had a Mars retrograde and stuff, was 1555 March, which redefined the world. And then 1886 BC, even more so. And honestly, this Leo Aries energy in trine, because that's what you want to look at, and you want to see how that Pluto's in opposition to Mars, right? And then you want to look at that first before you look at the South Node. Remember, the South Node is more past old karmic past life shit, right? This isn't the stuff that you're receiving. This is the stuff that you're dumping, letting go. It's the South, right? So these are the relationships from the past that are still not cleared out, or people you haven't let go of that need to be let go of, right? And this Mars is about, what you actually have an internal burning desire through, that you see yourself in, and that is in that spiritual place where there is no fog, but there is just the wide open vastness of truth and spiritual truth. That's where you move forward. And this Chiron direct, the day prior to this new moon, really does set that tone of like, I'm done holding on to stupid shit. I'm done with my ego still trying to place certain things in my life, people, situations that aren't mixing, that are part of the past. And so sometimes the reason why you're not getting out of your stuck feeling is because you're still in the stuck energies from the past. Or you're still connected to them so much, or you're still trying to find if there's still something there. Or it could be that past pattern of like, oh, the reason why I don't have a partner now is because I've had some, you're not over your ex. You're not over the bad breakups of all your exes. You still hold on to that story. This is like the very simple, like shit. Like you got to get over all these old trials and tribulations that you haven't let go of yet, that you're still wiring into your future somehow. Like, oh, and especially your present, and especially your heart. Like this Mars retrograde is, can you cut off, and can you, like a sword, cut off the heart that's really not a heart, because it's more like what you're hoping in society to prove, because Pluto in Capricorn was society based, but this is a new moon in Capricorn without Pluto, but now you got Pluto in Aquarius. Like it's much more in all different types of people where you sit. You need to know your boundaries. Like, you're the grocery clerk. Just because I smiled doesn't mean I flirted with you, right? You're my ex. We don't talk anymore. That's it, right? You're a friend. That's all you are. Like, doesn't mean that you're not, like, that's all you are as a person, but that's all you are in the definition of where you are in that interconnected link with me. These are boundaries that, if they're very weak, are going to be becoming wide open and crazy, especially with this Venus, Scorpio, Uranus, and so forth. And a lot of it is past shit and karmic relationship shit that's ending. And for some, it's already ended. It's just kind of that stamp out because things are moving already that have been moving, that have been defined. But if you're in those undefined places, you're going to have to face that undefined karmic bullshit that you haven't faced, and it's going to be like splatted all over the walls in your life. It's going to be like a crazy, 2-year-old throwing mashed potatoes on your face. And that this is where people's inner child is really going to be the other part. Like, do you really know how to even love? Some people have really deep love blocks right now in themselves because they have inner child wounds. They have wounds they didn't heal from their past. They don't know how to find their breakthroughs yet. And so this Capricorn energy is giving you the authority to break apart your past, let it go, and allow yourself to take your authority back on how you can allow deeper parts of your inner child to come back out. And it's always surrounding you, whether it's a kid itself. I mean, I'm lucky I have a young daughter who's 17 months coming up, right? It's like, fuck, she just wants to play all the day. And so for me, I'm a Leo. I'm a fucking inner child all day. And I get to do it even more. It's like a greater part that I can be even more of a kid all the time. It's fucking great. But some people don't know how to do that. The people who are like, I don't do that with a kid. That's the number one thing. They are not happy in their heart. And that Pluto in Aquarius is that icy Pluto trying to be the boundary of like, I have my wall up. And you're going to see that whether it's in a very deep personal relationship or around you, who's the ice wall? And sometimes it might be better to just be like, wait, you need to, when you're ready to show up with fucking some heart, then we can figure shit out. But until then, like, why do you deal with like people that don't know how to do it? It's like not even worth your time, not worth the trek up the new hill in your life, the new mountaintop we're all having to take again after so long. And what you're gonna do with people who just don't know how to expose their inner child, their happiness, their heart, that are weird. Like, why even deal with that shit? Sometimes closing your past is closing off closed people too. But if you just see the arrangement of planets as we leave this week and come into this new moon, talk about how weird everything is. Right? So if you just think about Mercury, right? From 13 degrees Gemini to 13 degrees of Sag, all the planets are on one side, except Mars. Helio-wise, same thing, but it's Mercury. So from Mars, it's just Mercury. But if we see from a helio perspective, this is the sun at the center, and this is at the same chart that I just did on that Monday with the new moon. We have Neptune at 29 degrees and 7 minutes of Pisces. We're coming to the end of the Neptune-Pisces transit. We already seen Pluto. Pluto's already in 1.5 degrees, right? But Neptune coming to the end. So is it that confusing, the last degree of Neptune and Pisces? I mean, sure it is, but what's confusing is when you're not living in your soul and you're living in the in-betweens and you're living in the I don't knows and the why am I in this? Get rid of that shit. Let it go. Right? Like, am I doing the right thing if I'm in this religion and not like you? The fact that you don't know spiritually where you're at, wrong religion, wrong situation, that I don't know where I am spiritually with this thing and this person. You don't know. Very clear. You're obviously not awake with it. Bye-bye. Like clear the decks. This is a new moon in Capricorn to remember that you don't need Pluto there anymore, kind of bossing you around like, come on, pirate. That's a stupid pirate. Have him walk the plank. Well, okay. Put on your fake patch and act like it. That's Pluto. That's gone. You've learned how to be a pirate again. And with Neptune and Pisces at the end, this is almost like Saturn trying to also help Neptune being like, you're fucking Poseidon. These are your oceans. Like, why are you fucking acting like you're like on the land or something? Like, you don't know what to do with the fish? Like, fucking come on, figure it out. Like, this is so easy now. Like, there is no more, I don't know. It's undefined. I don't know what to do. Blah, blah, blah. That's because you don't have your inner child woke up and you have cold-hearted fucking walls up. And you are so walled up, you don't even know what to do because you haven't expressed yourself. So this is where there's going to be some poppage this week. Some people that don't know how to express themselves, right? And the worst is they haven't let go of the past. I still love you. I still think you're amazing. I still want the thing I never got out of this job. I never did. Bam! It just blows up because they've been just holding it all in. And so if you even take this Mars and Earth that's getting closer, so that's what's cool about this Mars retrograde, right? This is like that race with Venus, Earth, Mars around the sun Even though, from a 2D chart, here's Venus. Venus is there's no retrogrades in Helio, but there's Venus coming towards Uranus. There's Venus in sextile to Saturn. It's easy to choose what relationships are of value that are spiritually in alignment with you fully, not like, kind of, because if they were, they're in flow with you perfect everywhere. It makes sense. If it's not, it's not. It's clear to see. But there's that Jupiter about to make its first and only square to Saturn. It only makes one square on a Helio journey. And so that's building up as we come into this new year. Mars and the Earth about to get closer to Mars here, and that'll be with the Sun in Capricorn when it opposes Mars. That'll be retrograde in Cancer. And it's been since 1886 BC the last time that happened. With Mars retrograde in Leo to oppose Pluto in Aquarius, and then to retrograde back into Cancer and have the Sun in Capricorn make its opposition point. That's the only time that happens from a geo point of view, right? That understanding. But we see those coming together. So there is this like extreme Mars energy that's all over, and even Plutonian with that opposition that's building from a geo perspective. But from the Helio perspective, there is this Mars and Saturn starting to try, and it's very clear as day where your soul and where that is. But with that Mercury is going to be in quincunx to Saturn, and there's a yod in a Helio chart. So this is the Sun at the center, right? And Mercury yods to create that Venus-Saturn sextile, and those two quincunxes up from both Saturn and Venus to Mercury. And it's like the only way for Mercury on the other side of all the planets on the sun to see past the sun, it can connect with Venus and Saturn in sextile. And this whole week's really about this whole Venus and Saturn new moon in Capricorn, and then even this Venus that's slowing down to square Uranus and being in Aquarius, but Uranus is in Taurus, and they both would like to switch, but in Helio they are switched. The idea of that switched, right? The Venus is in its home sign, and from a Helio point of view, Saturn's with Neptune there, and Earth's in Cancer. And Mars is in fall, but still, that Mars is in trine to Saturn. So it's like when you see the Helio thing, it's like, this will be about what you build will be based off what you end about your past to find your more balanced understanding of how to move forward in your life. Because then that's Mercury that's going to come and square Mars. That Mercury also, because Mercury is about 3.5 degrees every day, right? That Mercury is going to be in square to Earth in the couple days prior to this, right? Like 3 days prior to this, which is all during the dark moon and all that shit, Venus square Uranus. You've got the clarity is as simple as seeing what do you need to let go of the past that's never going to happen. Stop putting your mind there. Stop putting, especially some people live their reality in there. The worst are the people who haven't let go of their reality of their past, and they just are trying to keep it all together, and it's gonna fucking blow up. Especially Chiron stationing direct too. So, the Helio helps us see what's coming, how it works, how it comes together. And also, it's weird that on Helio it's Mercury, but on Geo it's Mars retrograde, the only planet on the other side. And so, again, that inner child and that piece that actually is more of that, oh, this makes sense. This makes logical sense. And that yod that forms that is very fast, that is very rare. Remember, Mercury is the fastest moving planet in Geo. So if it's doing 3 degrees and 3.5 degrees a day, for it to be at this moment to catch the yod is very rare. And it's happening exactly when the new moon's happening. So even though the new moon's not making any fucking aspects, it's just a Sessi quadrant to Uranus. It's really, Helio-wise, making a lot more sense where we're at and where Mercury even is at the end of this week and the beginning of this new moon, out of the opposition of Jupiter and Saturn square, right? Out of all of that, and finally like ready to come out of shadow by next week and into 2025, and finally move out of Sag and square Neptune and come into Capricorn and fucking really start to make sense as we come into this next 3 weeks here of North Node changing signs, a fucking Sun Pluto conjunction in Aquarius. I mean, of course, I'll be doing my 2025 special here next week. So right before we come into 2025 on High Vibe. So you're going to definitely want to purchase that. And I hope this helps people, because this is definitely this is everything that's not in alignment spiritually, and everything that's you're trying to still hold on from the past, it's fucking gone. And the weirdest scenarios and the most undefined scenarios for those people just not, it's gonna be weird. And I would say, people that have like Sag rising, Gemini rising, Pisces rising, Virgo risings, or those sun signs, that's where it's gonna be the more relationship craziness, especially if Jupiter and that Saturn stuff are around sensitive relationship points in your chart. Sun sign wise, Geminis, Sages for sure. So it's like, the universe ain't gonna just let you pass. Right. And I guess I might have to do the visual, because whether I'm dealing with people who are, in their Pluto opposition now, right, that are baby boomers, or I'm dealing with Gen Zs who are too young to remember, right? Yeah, so it's the Sphinx gate that they come to. And if you even think about with this Mars retrograde, right, with the opposition of Pluto, it's like, it is kind of like we are walking through this, right? So you get to look at yourself this week, right? Like, well, I'm doing the hieroglyphic mode now. But as you walk through that, Pluto's kind of like out here pulling you in, like, well, this is what I want to have happen in life. But like your true heart energy is you coming through this. And if it's not genuine, if it's not connected with how it's actually going to work out there, they're going to zap you. Meow, 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 meow. That's what's happening. And don't you dare for 1 second be like, no, that's not happening. Oh, well, it is fucking what? Venus fucking square Uranus. It is Jupiter square Saturn, right? It's Saturn's direct, Jupiter's retrograde. It is fucking Mercury in the middle of all that for 3.5 days. It is a dark moon in Sag with that moon in shadow and through all that shit. That's the moment, right? Atreyu reaches the Sphinx gate. Like, he can't even go through and deal with this, oh, the world's turning into nothingness. He can't even make through if he's nothing inside and what he's connected to, right? Like, he's not doing it for the girl, right? He's not doing it for the princess. He's not doing it for the boy reading the book, who's the most stupid fucking character of all time. He's doing it purely because of courage in the heart, for the love that he has to want to make the world not nothing, like not die to nothingness. And that's, most people don't do that. So they show in the scene before this all the like soldiers and knights that have died before, because they're always doing it for something. That's that Pluto and Aquarius. I'm doing it to keep my walls up, right? I'm doing it to be something in society. I'm doing it because I hope that this person will be who I want to be. I'm doing it because I want this to be the princess, or I want this to be my prince, or I want this to be the job, or I want this for the money, or I want this, whatever it might be. It ain't gonna happen. And people aren't understanding that right now. They're really not. They're so, whatever. And you can't be whatever in these times, because really Saturn, Neptune, and Pisces, that will not mean Pisces and mean Aries, is the nothingness, taking out everything to the last moment and starting all over. We are living the never-ending story movie. And the only people that are going to be okay in this last year of it are going to be the people that are like Atreyu and Falcor, who have an inner child, who don't have icy walls up, and you're definitely not the stupid introverted kid reading the book, watching the whole thing and being a creepy ass. Now that Pluto's in Aquarius, talk about creeps watching from weird places. Anybody who's that kind of weird person tripping out, like weird and doesn't say much and looking in the corner, they're a fucking weirdo. And they can't be those, you know what? The universe ain't gonna allow fucking weirdos anymore. It ain't gonna allow it. You just can't be like one of those people watching the revolution and just you're not saying anything, being in the corner and looking around, looking like a dumbass. Not gonna happen. Because you know how we get to a place like this? Because there's so many fucking people on this planet that live that way. So many people that are in the, I don't know, I don't define much. I just kind of, it's not the way I want it to look, but I also, I take on the thing I don't really want. And blah, blah, blah. Guess what? You're a fucking retard. So of course it's all fucking nothingness because everybody's living retarded. Everybody went woke, right? And how retarded was that, right? The fact that you can't say retarded is fucking retarded itself, right? Like the fact that that's all the triggered woke people. Oh my God. That's the problem. If you're fucking triggered by that, you are the Pluto that's creepy in Aquarius. Like the weird person that's like, oh dude, they said a word that's weird. You don't even know that word wasn't even used about mental retardation. It was used for people who are stepping backwards and retarding themselves backwards. For hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. It's only been since the 1970s we started using it that way, and it's not even the official form of it. It's like the fourth version of it in the old Oxford Dictionary. So maybe do your research. Maybe have your facts. But we are living in a world where the never-ending story is not going to continue anymore, of nothingness, of you just living in a nothing world because you just want to just do it for something that's like this carrot that you're hopefully wanting, and any of those things that really aren't genuine is gone, and based off this false belief idea and crazy facts you make up out of nowhere that really you're not paying attention to what the Jupiter and Saturn square already did, right? So if we just take that, let's just go back a couple months, right? Jupiter 18, Saturn 18, right? So there it was in the summer. Jupiter square Saturn right here, boom. August 21st. So after July 4th and stuff, right? There was Jupiter and Mars square Saturn, and it was Saturn retrograde and it was Jupiter direct. So you thought you could outsmart that shit. Now you can't. And remember that the next Jupiter Saturn square is in cardinal at the very beginning of the cardinal signs of Aries and Cancer. And how weird. Venus was in Virgo in fall, in fall. But what's weird is it was starting to trine Uranus. So again, it's okay. It's no big deal. So any weird relationship, people, situations in those time periods, like falling during this period. And like I said, that Jupiter was building to start to sextile over to Mars. We're not having that anymore, right? Well, that'll come back, but not now. It's not going to save shit. It's not going to resurrect shit. There's also Neptune at the end of Pisces. So talk about Delulu town. It was retrograde. So all the Delulu shit that people lived through, especially that they were trying to expand, even though the facts were like not on their truth, and that they were like, I can figure that out later. Let's just get through this moment. And right, like those kind of relationships and people, oh my God, this is going to be the week of fucking hell, because you have to face that truth now. You just thought you could figure that, just backtrack that shit. Pluto was at 0 degrees where it's back now, but direct. Now I'm just going to go back because I promised this, and let's do 2022. I forgot what year it was. I think it's like 2015 or 2016, something like that, or I don't remember. But let's go back by year. We're going to look for this new moon, and let's move the hours. So we'll bring it up to noon. Okay, let's go year. I'm trying to remember. I don't have, I'm not on my PC right now or my Mac. So it was a new moon. I remember around the same time in this whole last Pluto cycle. That one was kind of close. 2016, right? I said 2016. Let me do days. The moon's already in Aquarius, but yeah. So that was a new moon that was at 8 degrees with Pluto close by back in 2016. So things from 2016. That was the last Saturn Neptune square in mutable. So those kind of and similar degrees, very early teens. So, things from the past from then over. So 2015, no, that one's done. No, that one's done. There it was. It was 2013. Yeah, I did. There's a horoscope on this one that you can see on YouTube of me doing it, since I do a horoscope every day. Fucking video that I'm that person who has all that fucking receipts, but it's like, that was it. I'll never forget that shit. 2013, that was Saturn Scorpio. Yeah, that was a fucking crazy time. The last time we had a new moon coming into to end the year and begin the new year, right? And that one was with Pluto. That's crazy. And it was at 10. Yeah, it was at 10 degrees. That's kind of crazy. With Mercury, and it was Venus retrograde. Oh, and it was with opposition to Jupiter. Mercury opposite Jupiter. North Node coming to an end. That was in Virgo, right? Let's see if there's one more. It's kind of close. 2011 with Neptune and Chiron. Neptune went to Pisces that year. But that's still not it. That was crazy. I'll never forget that. That was a buttload of planets. All fucking 2009, fucking everything together. That was insane. That was a fucking fun New Year's. But it was like, the whole world's going to change, and it did. 2008. See what I mean? Like, to have this new moon happen right before this new year and come into the new year with fucking that moon in Capricorn like that is super rare. And we had it with Pluto in 2013. So it's been 11 years, and there's no Pluto. So you can't even I'm trying to find the first one that you could relate with, which is right here. 2006, which is when the North and the South node was Aries, Libra. Look at Jupiter at 13 degrees, but now it's in quincunx at 13 degrees Gemini. Mercury in Sag, that was with Pluto. Saturn in Leo, opposite Venus that was retrograde at 0. That was the last Venus retrograde in Aquarius. That was starting to build up. I think the last one was in the 2010s, but that's crazy because that 0 point there with the moon crossing over that, I'll never forget that too. I was doing astrology back then, especially with 0 Leo and Chiron there. So the last time is 2006. So again, I'm taking you back to 2004. If you go back to this deep astrology, 2012, 16 years of Pluto Capricorn. So you can use 2004 as the beginning of understanding and then the full close here of 2024 and everything. So all these places you've relied on your ego and all these things, it's all closing down and a whole new approach to it. And anything from the past stuff that you're still attached to from all those times are gone. You have to be in the new. It's fucking crazy. That's what I live for, is like that shit, though, is in astrology. And look at that. That was Eris at fucking 19 degrees of Aries, right where Chiron's stationing direct. And we found Eris in that time at the exalted degree of Aries for the sun. And we, because of that find, the fucking astrophysicists and planetary fucking board of fucking planetary, whoever the fuck they are, took Pluto off the fucking planet list. And so if you think about it, Pluto ain't off the planet list. They're obsessed with it. They show us pictures of it. So if you think about all this shit, the whole time they've kept Pluto off the planet list since 2006, it's going to fall back right in their face of all the cold weirdos. And that's why there's the drones and the cold fucking weird world we live in where they're not saying what's happening. And that's why you have all those weirdos in your life, or people that just are fucking never, they don't express themselves. They don't say anything. You're like, what the fuck? Who are these people? And you can't be around any of that anymore. And you can be compassionate. Just be like, hey, until you're ready to turn your heart on and act like a human being and not just be all fucking queer. But the reason why people are all weirded out is over other people that they're not getting and they're not expressing themselves about. So you got to be kind of nice, because it's like they're dealing with their own weird shit, but that's because somebody's leading them on, or they haven't cleared up some past shit or whatever, and they got to fucking deal with all that. And so this is going to bring up Jupiter-Saturn clashes, right? Like it could be parental children, bam. That's what Jupiter-Saturn brings up, is parental children squares that haven't been figured out. It could bring up, where like some people that feel like they're the god that never is always in control, but really they're trying to stop something that'll take away their control, which won't work, which is Zeus, Jupiter, that's going to come back and create the Olympian gods. Like, this brings up so much shit. But you wonder why we live in a world where there's fucking weird drones and you don't know, or are they UAPs, or are they UFOs, or is it a PSYOP or whatever? Because they took Pluto off the fucking planet list after they found Eris at the fucking same degree that Chiron's stationing direct. And now that Chiron's stationing direct is going to bring all that back up and heal Pluto, and a lot of things are going to be exposed. And then Mars opposite, where Venus had retrograded at 0 point of Aquarius, and fucking the moon crossed over that on New Year's Day, and Chiron was there, and fucking I could go on for days. But that's why I'm on highvibe.tv. That's why I'm not on YouTube, because YouTube's, again, it's a place for people to put out every kind of weird stuff in the world. And I do show up, give you guys, and remind you that it's all on highvibe.tv. So I appreciate you all very much. Make sure you join me on highvibe.tv. I hope you have a wonderful holiday break, holiday time. I hope it doesn't get too crazy for you. I hope you don't have too many undefined things in your life, especially around relationships, because those are going to go out of control and weird. I hope you have expressed yourself fully. And anybody who has not, it's going to get nasty for you, because you have to learn to express your heart and you have to bring it out. You can't be a cold fucking weird thing. You can't have weird scenarios where you have no idea what things are going on. It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to have you or other people who don't express themselves right. It's very uncomfortable for the world. It's what's causing weird drones. And that's what we are manifesting, the weird shit, because people are fucking weird and they will not express their heart. They will not express. And it's because of everything from a woke world, right, that doesn't let you express how you want to say. And just, if you want to say retarded, say fucking retarded. Whatever. That's expressing yourself. You need to learn to express yourself. It's Mars retrograde in Leo. Express yourself. Trust me. Trust me. Anybody who's weird and doesn't know what to say and doesn't know how to be, especially kids are great fucking examples. If people are weird around kids, don't know how to express themselves, there's something fucking going on. Deep wound attachments to their heart being broken that they still are picking at fully, and won't face the situation or face the person or talk about it or deal with it. And there's gonna be a lot of people that are also in weird relationships where they can't define what it is, and they're just kind of in the middle. And it's like, and you're just chasing for a moment with you and that, or what. These are gonna be, Really, I think this Venus square Uranus is gonna be the craziest transit of the week, with the Jupiter square Saturn too. That mixes all on top of it, with the Mars opposite Pluto, with the fucking new moon in Capricorn for the first time with no Pluto. And as I showed you, the only new moon in Capricorn we had during the whole Pluto Capricorn transit of the new year was 2013. And the last time that there was a new moon in Capricorn, as we ended the year and came into a new year was in 2006. So especially I would take that 2006 energy, and everything from your past at that time is over. It's done. You know, stuff that you haven't ended from that time period has to come to an end. And especially for those people still attached in weird relationships that especially were formed in those periods up until, like, let's call it 2022, right? When finally there was, you know, or actually up until Jupiter came into Gemini, so in May of this year. You know, like anything that doesn't have definition, that's confusing, that doesn't know where it's going, that doesn't have a true track defined at all, like it's a train to nowhere. And you got to be honest with yourself. So I will see you before New Year's. Take care. Have a good Christmas. It's very Scroogey out there, and be nice to the Scrooges. Know that they're picking out some weird hard thing, and maybe it's not you, but it's somebody else. And if you're that person in that Scrooge's life, and you're leading them on or doing weird things, or if you're somebody who has their fucking big Pluto Aquarius walls up and your ice walls, you're gonna feel very alone, and you're gonna be the weirdo in the corner for a long time until you know how to express yourself. So good luck out there. It's gonna be a lot of repressed people coming to their wits' end, and a lot of people who sit in the weirdest scenarios because they don't know how to express their inner child in their heart and know how to truly love. So, and are living in worry and doubt and stories in their head and fake facts that they think are real. And I'm not even talking about the world, about their own life, because they don't want to face the past stuff, and they don't want to clear it, and they don't want to put the nails, and that's why we have graves. Like that's where Scorpio is, the grave. And so when you get to Pisces, it's at least a place that you can say that's the past, but there was an end to it. So that's why the 12th house is the house of endings. If there was no grave, if there was no full proper close, it's confusing and it starts to get messy. And so this is where it's going to be all very messy. And then remember, all of us are behind on so many things and trying to pick up everything and get to where we want to go. Nobody's feeling normal in that space. But it's about clearing what's not worth dealing with anymore, that you could put the end to and push to the side so we can get slowly back on track. It's going to take some time for us to get back on track. But this week definitely is like, whatever's messy, can't bring into 2025 at all. And it will be any relationship, any project, any situation, any values you have that just are not fitting in your life and are weird. And it's going to be whatever's kind of the weird scenario where you can't describe it and you can't really talk about it, or it's too much like, I don't want to upset that person and weird shit and the clashes of Jupiter, Saturn. And so, you know, this is not, again, like your TikTok grandma Gen Z astrology. It's better. It's fucking millennial, true Gen Y fucking astrology. So best way to remember is this is the great clash, and it's gonna happen whether you like it or not. Either you're gonna be somebody seeing it or it's you. And you'll know it's you because you'll know that I triggered the shit out of you on this one. That's how you know. Remember, the great clash. It's going to be happening this week. So, good luck out there. HighVibe.tv, adios. And my Mars Retrograde is on sale for $15. Definitely watch that if you want your mind blown. Go to HighVibe.tv and click on Mars Retro Special. Only $15. I put it on sale. Best 3.5 hours of your life. If you think I just gave you some cool shit, that shit'll blow your fucking mind. And the history to it and what happened. It's not easy to just, oh yeah, I know exactly what happened in 1886 BC. And how it's, the flip of it is happening. The last time that we're having what we had happen in flip is happening too. And that time period will scare you when you see the year. I'll just give you a hint, 1939. Adios. Bye-bye.
Are you ready to experience the most transformative cosmic event of 2025? Mars Retrograde is not just a celestial phenomenon, it's a profound call to reset, rethink, and redefine your understanding of power and purpose. But this time, it's different. This Mars Retrograde will hit in ways we've never seen before. Join David Lawrence Palmer, the Leo King, a world-renowned celebrity astrologer, for an exclusive live event streaming on High Vibe TV. This isn't just another astrology event, it's an immersive experience that dives deep into the astrological and personal implications of this rare Mars retrograde. You'll gain insights and tools to fully embrace this cosmic shift and transform your life. David will guide you through the unique placements of Leo and Cancer during this Mars retrograde, the rare and impactful Pluto opposition, and much more. As always, expect special surprises and exclusive revelations that only the Leo King delivers. Discover how Mars retrograde impacts every area of your life, your love life, career, manifestation, and direction. Learn how to turn its challenges into opportunities for personal empowerment. Gain a new understanding of power, both personal and global, and how to truly harness it for your own growth. Have questions? You'll get the chance to ask David live during the calendar session, or send your questions in advance to pr@highvibe.tv. Don't miss this opportunity to connect with the cosmos, understand its messages, and align yourself with the energy of the year ahead. From the Mars perspective, this is the beginning of a long period of Aries influence, and understanding it now is critical. Save the date, December 12th, 2024, at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. Streaming live exclusively on High Vibe TV. Reserve your spot today. Click below to join this one-of-a-kind live stream and embark on your cosmic reset. Premium Plus subscribers get this event included with their subscription. For others, the event is $19.99. Whether you join live or watch the recording added to your library, this experience will empower you for what's to come.
I'm dreaming about